I do too.
Are we good to go? Huh?
You need that monitor open or not?
You need that monitor. We can see that one. I mean, that's fine. I mean, are we good to go? Okay. I'll go ahead and call to order the July 8th meeting of the Plan Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Tammy Bailey,
Here.
James Mitchell,
Here.
Logan Zuber, Chris Lamb,
Here.
Michael Garowitz,
Here.
Daryl McConnell,
Here.
Devin Boland,
Here.
Susan May, Lucas Straw, Joseph Schultes, John Good,
Here.
Suzanne Davis.
Here.
And I do believe we have a quorum because we needed 6, correct? So we're good. Anything underneath organizational business? Seeing none. On to approval of minutes. You should have all had access to the June 10th, 2025 minutes. Does anybody have any questions, comments, changes, alterations, anything?
I'll make motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of passing the minutes, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Any need to modify the agenda from staff or commission members? All right, seeing none. On to old business. We don't have any. To new business, we have 2 items. The first one is a development plan for the City of Auburn Water Department. This is PC Development Plan 2025-7. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and turn it over to staff for their staff report.
Thank you, sir. James Ketteret, City Planner, for the City of Auburn. So this request is filed by the city. We're requesting development plan approval for additions and improvements to the water department facility, which is located at 800 North Street. This development plan did require publication for a legal notice of the STAR. That was on June 25th. There's actually 12 adjacent property owners that were notified of the request itself. The property itself is zoned I-1 light industrial. And a couple of site photographs. I'm sure you're familiar with the facility, but this is the front facade facing North Street. So this is where the water addition will be located at, the main office addition. This is just a side view looking to the west. Again, the buildings come out closer to the street. And again, there's on the west driveway looking east of the addition. Aerial photograph that this shows the overall, the aerial view. So the addition will be out front, and then the larger addition is towards the north, to the back of the property, towards the back of the property. We did not receive any public input on this particular request. This site plan just illustrates the 2 additions for the building. They're in the gray shading of the building. The front part is the main office area for the facility, and the back part would be 3 bays, service bays for the maintenance facility itself. There is some additional parking going just to the east and west of the front expansion of the building. There will be 4 customer spaces on the west side of the building. The east side parking space will be for staff. The 2 entrances to the property remain as they are. Over that not changed. We will be making some improvements to the area all around the building, the pavement area. We expanded a little bit in the back. The 2 drives remain as is. The project was routed back on June 20th. There are some outstanding routing documents. The project engineer is aware of those, and was working on getting those revised plan sheets to staff. And then a project advisory committee reviewed back on July 3rd. Overall, the addition on the north side with a truck beam will be going in is about 4,500 square feet. The addition on the south side is about 2,700 square feet. That front part of the building does extend closer to the street, and the Board of Zoning Appeals did consider a variance to reduce that required setback. The water department building is complies with the current building setback. So in order to build it towards the road, they did request a variance to reduce it to 65 feet. The board approved that. Part of that was, as you look to the east, other buildings to the east are closer than the 100 feet. So you do addition needs to look parallel with the other buildings to the east of the facility. I provided the I-1 district standards because all the other requirements are met. I mentioned the 4-vehicle customer parking area. Right now for the building, customers are able to go to the building. It's not really clear. I think that's part of this whole process is it's not clear who the customer entrance is. There's not good parking, really parking in front of bays, et cetera. So this addition provides a clear entrance and provides parking for anybody that does go to the facility as a customer. The architecture of the building is going to be consistent with what the current building is, so those standards have been met. They are requesting a waiver of a pedestrian connection. So a lot of our businesses, the new businesses that come in, are required to have a connection from their entrance to the building to a public sidewalk. This public sidewalk along Fourth Street, currently, this particular project does not include a connection for people that walk to the facility. Probably it could be considered a facility that doesn't have walking customers, like a retail or a restaurant perhaps could be. So that is the things for the request, just to waive that requirement. All site utilities, of course, are there. There are going to have to be some modifications for gas service. There'll be new service lines for sewer, the water service to the new addition. Drainage board, there's going to be some additional coverage on the property with impervious surface. But the drainage board did approve the overall plan. That plan basically to collect the water on site, and it does go via pipe to the storm sewer system along Fourth Street. So with that, the development plan complies with the development standards of the UDO and all the other design standards of the UDO. The staff does recommend that the plan condition waive the sidewalk connection requirements and accept the staff proposed findings of that. And approve this development plan subject to 3 conditions. The standard erosion control condition has to be in place. The routing comments need to be addressed as the engineer, project engineer is aware of those. And then, of course, all the site work to be completed in accordance with the plans prior to certificate of occupancy. And again, staff submitted both for consideration.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for staff?
If granted, would the waiver for the pedestrian connectivity need to be added as a condition?
It needs to be part of the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't put it in the line on the staff report. If you're going to grant it, put it on the motion.
Along with also the routing comments too. So it needs to be the 3 conditions, the routing comments and the waiver, correct? Yeah.
Is there any variances being requested by this at all?
No, the one for the setback was granted back to close.
Okay, thank you. Anybody from the petitioner like to step forward?
Yeah, Mike Cody with Cody Engineering. I Herb the Road from the city, Indiana, 46725. We're working with Flood Construction on these additions. We ironically met with the city on what they want to do here. We're improving the drainage, replacing a bunch of existing hard surface that's certainly flagged. And the staff report was pretty thorough. I don't know that there's anything that I can add to that other than we understand the comments. We knew about most of them before, and we're more than willing to, make the minor changes that are necessary to file it. If there's any questions, I'm here.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, at this point, I will open the floor to public opinion. If you have any comments or concerns over this development plan, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to the water department's plan? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Sorry, 1307 Sanders Drive. I didn't cover the intention looking at this, but waiving the sidewalk. What has been the city's plan for the last 30 years is to put sidewalks everywhere. And you're not going to connect the sidewalk from where it is towards the trailer park with a lot of interest. Does that make any sense to anybody? Putting the sidewalks everywhere else.
This is the sidewalk from this current sidewalk up to the building the door is. And I think the reason why it's to the approach.
Okay.
Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope everything goes as easy tonight. Anything else before I close the public hearing? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it to the commissioners for comments or anything about this. I think it's a good idea. I've gone out there a couple times to park, and it is hard. You're parking right in front of bays, and I think this is going to be a nice addition. So,
Jim, I won't be voting on this since I'm a city employee.
okay.
Overall, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Can we take a look at the findings of facts, please? Scroll to those. We do need to approve these first before we make a motion to approve the development plan as a whole. So there are 5. There are 5. All are written in the affirmative. Are we willing to accept the findings of facts for this PC development plan?
Looking to approve the findings of fact in the affirmative for PC Development Plan 2025-007.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a couple seconds. Are there any further comments or concerns over these findings? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the findings, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, to the development plan as a whole, we need a motion, and again, it needs to take into account the waiver for the sidewalk to the front entrance, the 3 conditions that are giving, and any existing routing comments that haven't been satisfied need to be satisfied. So those 3 things need to be made along with it. Is there anything else I'm missing on that, Jim?
Move to approve PC Development Plan 2025-007, granting the waiver for the pedestrian connectivity as requested, as well as requirement to satisfy all routing comments and the 3 conditions provided by staff.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any final comments or concerns? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Good luck. Take care. On to item number 2, Auburn Estates rezoning, even though it's not technically a rezoning. So this is classified as PC zoning 2025-1. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and turn it over to staff.
So the request before this evening, modify Keith Decker on behalf of the property owner who built the bus. They're requesting to modify the approved establishment plan, the approved plan development district ordinance for the project. This is for a 29.45 acre parcel of land. It's located at the southwest corner of Auburn Drive in County Road 46A. The modification to the plan, the ordinance itself, would be to eliminate 3 land uses that are currently approved for the project. That's industrial storage units and multiple family residential, which is an apartment. And replace those 3 uses with the use of single family residential. This, again, it's listed on the agenda as zoning. It's listed as a zoning case. It's technically not a rezoning. The zoning of the property is a plan development. That remains the same. When you establish a plan development district, you're basically creating a mini zoning ordinance for the property. So you determine what uses are allowed on the property and determine what the standards are to develop that property. What is being proposed, the zoning states plan development, the uses allowed and the standards for those uses, what's being modified with this request. The request does require public hearings. So it's advertised in the Star June 25th. There were 12 adjacent property owners notified of the public hearing and request public notice signs on the property as well. So the property itself, it identified that as the property, the entire 29 plus acre property. But it does include the existing house and the barn building on the property. Again, I mentioned this property is zoned PE, which is plan development, so the gray shade of the map is plan development zoning. The zoning surrounding the property, the north is R2 and east to the east is C1, which is neighborhood commercial, and R1 residential. To the south is R1 residential along County Road 46A. The remainder of the property to the south is in the county, under county zoning, but it is zoned industrial in the county. And then the land to the west is zoned back to city zoning of heavy industrial. I know that the Auburn 2040 plan, which does establish what future land uses should be for the property, it does show for this property mixed residential, which is single family, two family apartments. That all will fall under the mixed development for residential. We have a few photographs of the staff report, just showing you the layout of the property. This is from Auburn Drive, and looking south of 46A. This is the existing house and bar. This would be part of a commercial land use. This is along 46A, looking north to the west, the south property line. This probably will come up in your discussions this evening. There's a pretty substantial tree row that exists along that entire south property line. Along Auburn Drive, and over the power line, but that is looking up to the east. This is from County Road 31, again, looking at that established tree line on the south property line. And this is just looking north along County Road 31, and most of the property is still in the land. So this slide here shows what's called an establishment plan. So when the property owner initially came forward, and it wasn't the applicant, it was a different property owner, Henderson owned the property at the time, came forward when he purchased the property years ago with a plan for the property. This plan was to get the zoning of land development. And then he came up with what's called an establishment plan that lays out what land uses he desires for the property and where they will be located at. So that's what this plan, this is currently what exists, that he could come in today, the property owner, and develop according to this plan. So there is commercial along Auburn Drive. There is commercial where the existing house and barn are at. So those are the basically commercial areas. South of the barn area, he proposed storage units, basically self-storage units. South of that, along 46A, he had an apartment community. And based upon the acreage of the property, that could have about 170 apartment units at maximum density. And then along County Road 31, south of the commercial area, he had light industrial. So that, based again on the size of the property, there was a proposed probably about 150,000 square feet industrial building on that property. That again is what is currently approved for the property as far as land uses. So with this request this evening, one of the things he's asking to do is replace 3 of those land uses. So he wants to eliminate the industrial, the apartments, and the self-storage units, and replace it with single-family residential. So that's the gist of the request. That's the base of the request itself, is the establishment plan. What he identified as his single-family residential is something similar to our R3, which is our higher density single family. So the only thing that would be allowed if this gets approved is single-family detached homes. He is proposing most of the standards, and we'll get into that, are R3 similar standards. What's important about the R3 district, and actually any single-family district, whether it's R1, R2, R3, there were 3 types of homes that are allowed to be built by right on any properties on R1, R2, or R3 in the city. And that would either be just your conventional site-built homes, so your stick-built home on the property. It could be a modular home, which is a home that's constructed in a factory, but it's constructed to the same design standards, the same 1 and 2 family dwelling code. It has these same built home. So with that particular home built in a factory, brought to the site, assembled as a unit on a permanent foundation, it has the exact same code standards as what that home was built on the property. That's permitted anywhere in R1 or 2 or R3. third type is a manufactured home, which is again, constructed in a factory. It's on a different frame structure, but it is brought to the property. It does have to be placed on a permanent foundation. It has to have a pitched roof, all of that. It has to have a minimum size. But again, that is allowed anywhere within the city. You have R1 or 2, R3. That's really important to remember that. It doesn't come up a lot when we have rezonings in R1. Probably because whoever's requesting rezoning isn't really seeing what they intended to. I think the assumption is that we cite them all. So the recent rezonings we've done, Watson Estates is probably the number one example. The one that's back behind Home Depot on the state road. That subdivision is R3. They came in, they asked to rezone it from agricultural to R3. They showed, at that time it was just the rezone. When you showed plan, I think the assumption was that we cite those homes. He probably stated that. But we have to keep in mind, that's not what has to go with any of those three options on those lots, just as anywhere. And I just been stressing that point a little bit because I want to make sure we're clear. If somebody walks into our office, get a permit, that property is on R1 or R2 or R3, it doesn't matter where it's at. It could be in Bridgewater, it could be in Hunter's Glen. We will issue a permit for any one of those three homes. So it's a manufactured home, we will issue a permit for that home. Now, that said, there may be covenants in place. I would assume that Bridgewater and Hunter's Glen have some covenants against manufactured homes. But again, I want to make it clear, the city has predetermined that those home styles are appropriate in our residential districts. So just keep that in mind as you go through this. What's happened in this particular request is that when the applicant came forward and asked for, some direction on this is what my plan is, how do I go about making this happen? He came in and was upfront with his request, and he was looking at a different product than what we were currently getting in our subdivisions, on top of the stage, Bridgewater, all those, and wanted to do a modular manufactured home community. And I indicated, this is the zoning. Your plan district zoning is appropriate. We have to request a change of that establishment and the land uses. So that's the reason for the request. When he stated he wanted to do manufactured modular community, that's what I also said. I would think people don't want to see what you have in mind, what your layout would look like. And that's that conceptual plan that I think the community has seen as part of the notice that went out, where he laid out his intent for laying out the property with that conceptual plan. So that is kind of how we got where we're at this evening. Now getting into the standards and the additional asks that this request has. A couple of other things, the project has been routed for review, of course, both with the routing committee and the project advisory committee. We've gotten a lot of public input on this. Obviously, we've got a lot of individuals in the crowd this evening. We probably received at least 20 that I documented, whether it's a call, stop in, somebody submitted something through email. I've collected what has been put in writing in the folder that's on your computer there on a public copy. So just one or two staff comments. The current applicants, the property owner, did purchase the property back in March of this year. They purchased the property as the plan district zoning with the 5 uses that are identified on the property. The property itself is not within the city limits, but it is within the jurisdiction area of the city. But with that said, the property owner has submitted a voluntary annexation petition on our acreage that's currently being reviewed. It's separate from this request, but I want to identify that he has submitted that for consideration by the council. That will be considered at its July 15th meeting. If the applicant, if approved, the applicant again intends to submit a plan to subdivide the property, and the intent would be that for the plan, he would create the lots, just like in another subdivision. It that plat recorded. He would then have the home brought to the property, not the home brought to the property on the foundation, and have all the improvements that are necessary for that installed, and then sell the home in a lot. So it's different than some communities in that we just purchase a lot. Here, I don't believe that we purchase a lot. I think it's purchasing a home. Again, that's the current intent. He's not held to that. The development district ordinance is the real controlling document that's included in your packet of information. The ordinance itself is what establishes the list of uses allowed and those specific standards, the design standards and the development standards. So this evening, we're looking at step one of a three-step process. The first step is to get those uses and the standards set. Step two, which is a separate application, separate public hearing process, is really more of a primary class application. That's where you come in with more detailed information about lot sizes, lots, layout, the streets. He comes in with housing survey, with water, sewer, small water demand. All of those typical details you would have for subdivision will occur at step two. And at step three is the actual secondary plan. It's the actual document that was recorded that establishes the lot that allows him to transfer and sell the lot. So overall, we're in step one of this process. And again, with step one, we're going to be looking at that concept plan that he submitted, but that should have no bearing on your decision this evening. It's only an illustration of his intent. It's not held to that. We can't hold to that. But it does illustrate his ask, and that's what's important about it. It illustrates the lot width he's asking for, the density he's asking for. So it has relevance, and that's why I wanted him to submit. But I don't want to focus on that because he could totally change the layout of that if he meets the standards that he's asking to establish. So with those uses, he's looking at, for the single family area, all the uses that are allowed in the R3 that I mentioned, the site build, modular, manufacturing. For the C1 area, which is the house and the barn, C1, which is the neighborhood commercial, it's our less intensive commercial. The two lots along Auburn Drive, he's asking for C2 uses, which is our intensive zone. What we see along 7th Street or Grants Avenue. This is the development standards that this we need to focus on because this is his little zoning code he's establishing for the property, and it's for the residential area, the neighborhood commercial, which is the houses, and the general commercial. So all the standards for the neighborhood and general commercial are the same standards of our commercial districts. He's what's in the bottom line of those speed, which is you simply have to restate what they are. The residential standards is where the modifications from our typical R3 district are at. And just to backtrack for a second, the whole purpose of the planned development district is to allow flexibility. Otherwise, you just rezone it to R3 and ask for variance or something. The planned district is purposeful and allows a mixture of uses on a property. So we went from multiple uses down to the commercial and single family. But there's still a little bit of mixture of uses. That allows flexibility in the design standards. So our other planned development districts we have in the city, the cruise, the auto auction facility, that's a planned development district. The Fieldstone development, not built yet, is what was approved by the soccer field, if you remember a few years ago. The White City soccer field, that is a planned development. And the new 715 development, which has the new roadways that were built behind it now, Starbucks and all that, that is a planned development. So those, when they came in, those three areas specifically set out uses and development standards just for their property. And it allowed modifications. Each one of those has modifications to the standards. The modifications he's asking for on this property, the square footage of the lot is the same as the R3. He is asking for a modification of lot width from an R3 standard. What he's asking to do is a 50-foot lot width. The standard R3 is 60. All the setbacks are the same. The minimum dwelling unit size of each home has to be at least 900 square feet in size. The setbacks again are the same. The parking requirement is the same. Every home has to have 2 parking spaces, and so he would have to provide that. He's asking for a modification of the garage. So any of our new homes we built in the city require 1-car attached garage. That's anywhere in the city. He's asking that there be no garage required. He could still have one, but it's not required. And the last one would be lot coverage, which is the amount of a lot that's covered with the home, the driveway, the shed, the outlet. That currently is 50% of a lot to be covered. On the smaller lots, that may be close to being met, so the request is 60%. Some of the lots are deep and large. It will be about being 50%, but there might be some that, at least in the current layout he has, that wouldn't be able to be that. So those are the 3 asks of the development standard if we were comparing it to the R3. The conceptual plan, then, just to focus on this for a second, is this. So this is the layout that he intended to do. And it shows roadways between 46A and 34 east and west. They show the north-south along Auburn Drive. This particular layout has 67 lots. These 67 lots do the lot size, lot width, and your asking. So it's showing the layout he has. All the lots would have to be named access from internal. So those direct access from a lot to 31. The block A in the middle that you're looking at there, I think no matter what develops on this property, that property potentially is the most popular property. Is with water currently with this type of request, it's not a zoning request, it is a request to modify standards of the district. The applicant can do it in the where he is committing to certain uses of the property, perhaps development standards or other requirements, or the planning commission or council is there, can also place a condition that a commitment of use of the property required. Commitment of use is important because it's a guarantee that once the property owner says, well, what they're going to do happens. So if they come forward and say, we're just going to do either cycle, we're just going to do modular homes. We don't intend to do manufacturing. That's a commitment of use. Strike, take it out of the ordinance. You don't even have to do a commitment on that. You take it out of the list of uses, it can't be on the property. So the commitment of use is a recorded document. It's perhaps still could be done, or he voluntarily does it. It could be done. But by you striking it, that's automatic. The same with the development that you see in that table. So if the planning commission feels the garage needs to be required, and no becomes, but yes, that is just because it's required already. Or the lot width, that number doesn't have to be 60. It could be what you feel as a commission, or city, whatever you feel is appropriate. That's what it means. He's asking for 50 to understand why. I'm just telling you where you have the ability as a commission to adjust things is now. This is the only step we have that option. Once we get these standards in place, that's what they are. And he could change that plan to that top layout. If he needs lot width, if he needs lot size, all that stuff. And in compliance generally with our code, he can lay the lots out totally different than what he showed. So I only use the concept plan as an illustration. This the standard that matters is the lot width, the lot area, the setbacks, everything else that matters. I don't wanna just skip over. His asks are not very easy. His asks are, these are the standards of a life development. That's the whole purpose of the lake development, is to set the standards, take something unique on the property, something that is needed, and I think that kind of leads into the staff recommendation on this, something that the community needs. So as staff, goes through this plan, if we work with the property owner at the time they came in with the initial, so we thought those were appropriate uses for the property, the industrial, the apartments. That was agreed to by the planning commission and council, and that's how it got approved. It's also appropriate to do residential there, as the 2040 plan shows. So, a single-family residential use of the property. The ordinance again establishes those uses and the standards. I note that the staff we are not specifically recommending a commitment of use or anything of that nature. Again, you have that ability with that ordinance. So as you look at this, the ordinance is part of that. The ordinance under uses identifies the uses. That's where you can strike out and you don't want to particular use. The standards, you want to change all the standards. Do it within the ordinance itself as part of your motion. The commitment of use is a means, but we can accomplish it the same way with the condition or modification. Again, the three asks, there's a specific product he's applying to each year. It is different than product we have anywhere in the city. That's how staff looks at it. This particular property has industrial zoning completely on the west side, almost completely on the south side. Any residential development of this property of a higher density, such as what we passed with R3, similarities, is a transitional use. The commercial property, transitional use of property is a good thing. But it's a product that we all prefer we need, and it's clear that we need it. He's trying to meet a specific demand of the city. The only reason that I think this really came to the forefront of people's minds is because he's very upfront with the ask. Lots of the states came in and asked for R3. There was nobody in the room, nobody, because it was single family residential. If he had come forward and said, I'm doing single family residential, I don't think most of those people would be here. Because even though the staff reports like for Washington came out of listed uses, it just doesn't get focused on. But because he made the ask and he was being upfront, we included modular home, manufactured home, site-built home, the notice, and everything we've been saying. So we're trying to be very transparent. I think the developers trying to be transparent in what the specific ask is. I just ask that we remember that those three homestyles are allowed anywhere in the city. And that's how staff looks at it. And I want to treat this property right different than any other property other than comes forward with residential zoning. So our recommendation is to make the change. We're not recommending any curriculum changes in the standards. We're supporting the standards that he's asking for and supporting the land use. Those three types of homes that he's asking for. There aren't findings of fact in this request. There are considerations that you have to take into account. And there are different considerations that we do with rezoning. It's just the way the code is written. So they may not seem to apply. We're really amending the ordinance, the text of the ordinance for the property. So that's why those considerations are listed there. So again, you don't need to make specific findings, but there's a lot of things to consider. The staff report, the applicant's comments, of course, all the different comments, and the written comments you already have seen. But again, staff is recommending that you board this request, which is the modification of the East Auburn Estates Plan Development District ordinance to the council with a favorable recommendation. And just to close the comments, this is a recommendation we make tonight. It doesn't need 6 votes for either favorable or unfavorable. It's a split vote, any less than 6, and then proceed without recommendation to the council. but it does go to council. If there is a decision that I make, it would go to council at the August 15th. That is not a public hearing when it gets to council. I would have to let public comments for a while, but no public hearing except for the plan commission. This request. So with that, I will conclude my comments.
Thank you very much. I was notified that my mic might not have been working. That's the text I got. So hopefully now it's working. The bugs are worked out. So I appreciate your comments there. I do have one question for you. So in the ordinance, under Article 4, Design Standards, subsection C, it refers to the garage. But one thing else that it adds that you haven't talked about in the staff report is a storage shed shall be provided for each residential unit or lot. So you mentioned earlier something about a shed, but you said if, and this says they will. So if we decide maybe to put the garage as a yes, maybe we want to take that part out as well, because that would give them some storage. Correct? I mean,
The storage shed requirement is in there because the applicant came forward and said he didn't want to do a garage. My thought was, you have to replace the stuff. People, these are going to be individually owned lots. Someone will have to own their own lot, will have to maintain their own property. So I thought it was important, if you don't have a garage, you at least need a shed. So what the applicant, this required, was what the applicant could do was replace the home, the pavement, or the driveway, the two vehicles, they also need to replace a storage shed. And I think if he was agreeable with that, I think just to have the continuity of the sheds as well, so that everybody will have a different shed. You know, once somebody owns the lot, they probably, you know, unless it's a covenant, want, you know, as far as the shed, I think there needs to be a shed on the property. But the home is constructed. So, thanks for that. Rick.
thank you. Anything else? Any questions for commission, for staff?
Yeah, Jim, so quickly, the current zoning of the property, what we approved for the plan last time, we've got light industrial, we've got storage units, we've got the apartment community. Within that apartment community, how many units?
Just look at the density of the size of the property, the density of maximum of 107.
170 units. Of those units, is there any requirements or restrictions on what type of apartment complex you can do in?
No, it would be Class A, it would be subsidized. Yeah, we don't control the type of unit or house it is. If you put a house rented out.
Okay, so as it's zoned right now, they could go and put 170 units of subsidized housing in there?
It could be any variety of type of unit.
But they would have to meet the M3 standards, correct?
It would have to be an apartment. Yes.
Right. Anything else for staff? Thank you. Would somebody on behalf of the petitioner like to step forward and speak to the project? Would somebody on behalf of the petitioner like to speak to the project? Thank you. Please step forward, state your name and address. It's on, but he's 6'5". Sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
919 South, Indiana, 46710. My name's Keith Dedrick.
Is there anything you would like to add?
Heard it was 900 square foot minimum. There's going to be nothing less than like 1,400 to 2,000 square feet of these houses. You did mention the 3 different houses that got manufactured, modular, and stick built. A stick built has a certain regulation where they have. Modular has the same regulations as stick. Manufacturers don't. We're not doing manufacturing, but we modular homes is what we're going to do. And some of these might be stick built homes, have big regulation. We don't know until we get through that. But they'll all be brought in on, not on wheels, they're running on semis, put on in. Foundation cost permanent home. They can't be moved like a house trailer. This is not a trailer park. You know, this is
Okay, hold on. The public will have time later. No, not at this time, not until I open it to the public. You can later, yes.
So these are not rentals, these are for sale only. We'll bring them in, provide a home, a lot, a piece of ground. These are for sale, so you buy a house in town. It's not gonna be a rental. They're gonna be anywhere from $20,000 to $300,000 range. So I just wanna make sure I know it's not a rental.
Again, please allow him to speak. You'll have your chance momentarily.
Let's keep the two commercial lots up front, you know, still hopefully get a small grocery store up front, an IGA or something, and then we big gas station.
I do have a question then. On your statement about the 900 not even close to where the minimum is, what could we change that to in the ordinance from 900 up to? Because if we make changes, we need to make it to the ordinance. What could we comfortably? Did you say 1350 is your smallest? Okay, so I plan on making that motion later to increase it to 1350. Are there any other standards that you would be willing to kind of slide on? We've had conversations. I heard him talking about garage and the two changes, other changes, the 50 foot and also the 60 to 50 foot and also the percent change from 50 to 60%. Would you be willing to deal with those changes if those got made? The lot coverage. So the lot coverage for a regular R3 is 60 feet and the proposed lot width here is 50 feet. So you'd be okay increasing it from 50 to 60 feet. You might lose, I don't know how many lots that would be, but
But one thing I was gonna say is the garage is gonna come back to play, since me and James are from, we found a model, we can do the garage in the front, compared to, do the sheds. So that's something that I was looking at, James about, that's a change.
okay.
So you're adding garages?
Any other questions from the commission?
Just so I'm clear on this, you said that the new standards are minimum house size of 1350 square feet. You will commit to not doing any manufactured housing. These are for sale only, not rentals. The price range target is 220 to 300,000, and you will be adding a garage to each of the units.
And this is a purchase outright, not a lease to own.
Also, I have a question about the street. You want to have this remain a private street. That would indicate an HOA would be set up and they would collect funds to maintain the street. Is that right?
The only way we would accept the street is if you built the street to city standard, and that would require sidewalks, curb and gutter, minimum street width. So, right, Jim? So that may be deciding, that might change your thinking depending on what you had in mind for a street. The other thing about the HOA is you're going to have a detention pond, retention, detention, and we all know what those look like if they're not taken care of, and that's typically by an HOA. So I don't know what you got in mind for future maintenance. Real quick, Jim, he's talking about larger homes than what we were envisioning. Does that change the maximum lot coverage in the standards? Does that affect that at all?
It could affect that. The standard is what he's asking for is the 60%. So again, that's the amount of coverage of the lot by the home, which includes a garage, and the driveway, the paved driveway area. If he can fit the home on the property and the driveway and stay whatever size and stay under the 60% that he's asking for, then he would be okay. That's the limiting factor, is that lot coverage.
So as that layout is on here, the lots are like 50 by 100 at the smallest.
Most are about 200.
Okay, so if the smallest is talking about 5,000 square foot lot, you're doing 1350 building coverage ratio, which puts your site coverage ratio at under 50%. Am I calculating that right?
I mean, his lot sizes are 7,500 and up. So he's above the minimum with it, even if his smallest lots, as he's shown on that concept plan, are above the minimum. But again, even with that minimum size lot, he would be limited to how much the size of the home would be limited by the lot coverage, which is why it got bumped up to 60,
So
because maybe on the smaller lots, he might need that.
We're talking about site coverage ratios. What is that? Is that the house? What else is it?
The house plus any concrete surface, so the driveways typically, and if there's a sidewalk
The garage.
to the door, any other building, a shed or a garage.
Okay, so that's why you're saying that gets pretty close when you look at those three factors.
On the smallest lot he has, again, is 7,500 square foot, so that's why we looked at that, which is, I think, 150 depth, 50 width. I believe that was.
Anything else from the commission? Anything you'd like to add before we open it to the public? Okay, thank you very much. Please stand by. We may have some questions for you. Okay, before I open the floor to the public, I'd like to remind you to come up to the microphone, the podium, and state your name and address for the record. Please make sure not only people that approach, that the commission members speak to the microphone. I got another text that some people aren't speaking into their microphones, so please make sure that's there for the record. Please address your comments and questions to the commission, not to the staff or the petitioner, and then we'll make sure we get those questions addressed. Remember the plans again, as Jim had stated, are conceptual and could change prior to the filing of the primary plat if this modification passes. Regardless, again, of the results tonight, and again, Jim also mentioned this will be forwarded to City Council at the August, what was the date again? August 5th meeting, so you'll have another chance to speak on this, so please be prepared to do so. What I'm going to do before I turn it over here is set a time limit, and legally, Shapiro versus City Grove from the 10th Circuit says that we are allowed to do this. It was passed in 2007. I'm going to set the time limit at 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to speak. There's a lot of you in the room, so please be mindful of everybody else. I know a lot of you are probably still going to have the same comments over and over again and questions. But again, please address the questions to us, and then we will get the answer. Either we will answer it, or the staff or the petitioner will answer it. So I'll go ahead at this time then and open the floor to public comment. Again, please feel free. If you want to start a line there, that'd be great. It'd be fine.
Good evening. My name is Bob Ehrman. I'm an attorney with Auburn in Fort Wayne. I'm here tonight representing Carlex is a manufacturing facility here in Auburn, with a little over 200 employees. Its facility is located just west of the proposal across County Road, I believe 31. As of right now, the plan that is proposed is compatible with the adjacent area to the west. You have industrial, you have commercial, you have storage units, you have the apartment as you start to go towards 46A. What you are doing, and this is, I've done PUDs, this is a rezone. You're changing the map, you're changing the ordinance, and what you're proposing is to put a high density, or at least a residential development, right up against the industrial district on 31, which Carlex believes is incompatible, having that kind of a residential development against the industrial. So that is their main concern. They don't believe, they think the plan as stated is consistent. That was the one that was approved. They don't believe it should change, because bringing that many residences also brings potential nuisance complaints, because you're putting residential immediately adjacent to industrial. So Carlex is opposed to change for those reasons. And I one of the things is that they are concerned. People are going to move into this residential community and not know that there is this industrial. They bought land to the east of their facility. And they are worried about potential nuisance complaints if they would choose to expand. And I can tell you, putting the residential development this close would certainly make them question whether or not they would ever expand their land. Because unless there was some kind of a protection for airports, for example, airports usually have covenants to say, hey, if you move into this residential community, you can't complain about the industrial area right adjacent to you. They have those kinds of covenants around GM. So they are opposed to changing. They do not think it's good for their facility. They don't think it's good for the future of the facility. And if this were to receive a favorable recommendation, they would want either a city council or they would want this evening a requirement that the developer put a covenant in there that they cannot complain. So we call kind of an anti-nuisance complaint. So they would have to evaluate that. So I don't see a timer hanging no one close to my time. So that is mainly that is so but they are opposed to change the plan, and they would have to give it an unfavorable recommendation because it is incompatible with the adjacent industrial area. The existing plan is summer.
Thank you. You still have 5 seconds. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, I'm George Hall, well to Gutenberg Drive. And I appreciate Mr. Beaver's comments regarding the square footage of the homes on the lots coming up to 1350 and garages being added. However, I'm struggling with the math of a 50-foot wide lot at 150 feet. How do you accommodate that home with setbacks on those lots? I don't understand that. Seems like a long skinny house to me. And a low pitched roof. And those spell manufactured homes. I know there are a lot of good manufacturers for modular homes out there. I've seen a lot of them. I've been in construction for years. I'm not in favor of, even though if you make a single wide modular home. But I'm concerned about the lot sizes versus what you can put on there. So the lot sizes, to me, I look at the plot plan, it's going to have to change somehow. So my question is, how do you accommodate that 1,350 square foot home on a lot that's 50 feet wide and 150 feet with a garage?
With the lot coverage percentage, correct? Have we done the math?
Have an answer for that?
I haven't run the numbers. That's the one.
Just in my head, it doesn't. I'm concerned about the density of population in that plot of land also. You mentioned about Darryl, you mentioned about the streets being city code before they can be accepted into the thing, which makes sense. That's a lot of added expense, but I think it's something that should be definitely looked at because that will be a plus for the addition. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I pastor the Auburn Baptist Church. We're on the northeast corner of that intersection there. So my concern is the quality of life for the people that live there. This high density residential area does not make any sense. In fact, there are so many moving parts to this, so many things that need modified. I wonder if the hard work has been done preliminarily to present a coherent plan of something that Auburn could be proud of. So I'm for a residential area. I'd rather see homes there than apartments and storage buildings. But the concern is the high density. So I'd like to see lots bigger, larger, streets wide enough where first responders could get down the road if need be. I'd like to see a playground in that area, sidewalks, something that people would really enjoy. They enjoy living there, living in Auburn. But just trying to cram people into a specific small amount of space where homes, I think, would be perpendicular to the road. Is that correct?
Keep in mind, this is a conceptual plan. This may change. That's why we're not referring to it. Mainly refer to the standard is what you need to keep dealing with.
I just wanted to speak from my heart, and just say that as a pastor, I know I've exceeded way beyond the lawyer, which is
No, yeah.
at all. But we're concerned about the quality of life. We want to see people living on top of one another. We want to see them with garages, sheds, sidewalks, wide roads, and live a happy life. That's my comment.
Thank you.
I'm Kenneth Brown, property owner across the road from there. I'm a regional owner. I sold to Henderson. And first of all, you need to know the flooding area in that farm. The center of it there, I put new tiling in, but I know it floods in there when the timer rains. It heads back towards County Road 31. Right beside the road, there's a big floodplain there. So that all has to be addressed before you get permits to build it. They need to put retention ponds in. And County Road 31, best of my knowledge, I've watched it for years. It's a chip and seal road. It's sure going to come up to any city street standards. And that's going to have to be redone. Not new road, dry road, they won't go through. 46A, they've always complained about there's too much traffic. It comes up to Auburn Drive. So you're talking about putting 70 more homes out there. Traffic's going to be ridiculous. And you have to put a stoplight out there. So that's all I have to say
Okay.
about it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Hi, Jessica Hardy, 1314 Pearl Street in Auburn. First, I'd like to take a moment to thank this council. At the last meeting I was at, we decided to keep Article 9 with the letters going to our constituents. So this is what it looks like when you anoint people and tell them what's going on. So again, thank you for sending out those letters and doing that. On the topic at hand, I would just like to state that as a resident, I am frustrated with this zoning. This property was already specially zoned for one developer property owner, whatever you want to say, and now we're going to rezone it again for another property owner because that particular development didn't work out. If I'm living next to something and it's zoned one way and you can just easily change it to another, then how do I trust where I'm at and what I'm doing? The zoning needs to stay. It was made for a reason. Carlex obviously agrees with that. They bought their property knowing this property owner bought this property, knowing what it was zoned. And I know it's kind of a change in zoning, but zoning is obviously for a reason. It tells people in an area what they can buy, what they can do with it, what they can't. And the city of Auburn lately has been doing a lot of snap judgments on changing zoning. And it's not been great for the residents. We have that whole new development going over there by the senior living facility, Astral. I don't think that should have gone there. It doesn't sound like it's going very well either. Iron Horse in Garrett, that was these modular built-up homes. That didn't do so well in Garrett. So I would very much ask the zoning to do the way it stands so that I know as a resident, when I move into an area or do something, that zoning stays that way. It's important. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is David McWilliams. I live down on 37, so I don't actually live by this property. But having lived in quite a few places over this whole United States. I can assure you that most of the things that people are concerned about, we will probably get. The benefits that are claimed usually are a long way around the road to getting them. If, how many lots do you see in this total? If I might ask, the residential part of it.
But again, it's
How
a
much
concept. It's a
tax-
conceptual. Keep in mind, it's a conceptual plan, so it's going to change. So I understand what you're asking, but again, this is not the final.
Well, it needs to be
Presentation.
addressed, I think, the amount of taxes, because the higher the density of living that you get, usually results in a much higher number of crime calls and things like that. So the police over here, they're going to be wanting to have some more officers hired to help take care of this. It's usually not just one or two, but it's going to be 2, 3, or 4. So if you add all that cost that goes to that and everything else, we don't really come out too good as a society for making high density living. People have to have some ownership and pride in what they're going to live in, and they have a responsibility to take care of it. And that's pretty much what I got to say. But I don't see much benefit at all. And as the lady just said, when the people bought the property, they knew how it was zoned, so they're not being offended or hurt in any way if they're denied on it. If they want to have residential, that's great, but make a residential home that people can live in and be happy. I don't know too many people buy $300,000 50-foot wide lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Water Balkan. I live at 3332 County Road 46A, Auburn. I'm a stone's throw from this property, and I personally do not want a modular / mobile home park in my neighborhood. There's a lot of people out there that have built some very nice homes, and we do not want our property values to go in the toilet and our property taxes to go up just because of this in this location. There could be better uses for this property, like the gentleman said. A park, children to play in that neighborhood, that would be super. I don't know how many other people in this room I could speak for, but we do not want a mobile home, modular home park in our community. We've been out there too long. Another thing you gotta remember, ladies and gentlemen, you all answer to everybody in this room. It's what the public wants. It doesn't matter what's best for the city of Auburn.
I want to, before you speak, I'd like to make a comment. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it. But again, he's taking the mobile home type off the table through the process. Mobile home manufactured, right? He's taking that off the table. It's going to be removed. This is not going to be a mobile home park. And again, that is a conceptual plan. It's not the final plan. Eventually, that'll come up. So please go ahead.
My name is Sue Stoops, along with my husband John.
We can't hear the speaker, please.
Along with my husband John, we own the field right south of this property. So that makes us the longest adjacent property owner. I agree with most of the comments made. I had this nice little speech, but they've already spoke for me on that. I think the dots definitely have to be wider. 50 feet, that's the length of our barn. And I'm trying to envision a house and a garage. Just, I can't see it. But the main reason I'm here is that fence row that divides the two properties. Those oak trees have been there for us, and if we leave them alone, they'll be there after us. So please, whatever you do to develop, stay back 100 feet or so from that fence line, because if you disturb the roots too much, the oaks will not, the trees just can't take that. They may not die immediately, but they'll die sooner. So stay back. I understand with a 100-foot or a 200-foot deep lot, to ask for 100 feet is asking quite a bit. But wouldn't you rather live in a place with big old trees in your backyard and big old dead trees in your backyard?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Somewhere so people can see it.
Hi.
You put it on overhead?
We don't have like a document camera or anything.
Okay.
Please again, state your name and address.
Lakeshore Drive, Auburn. My sister and I own the property to the north of this development. And to give you a little background information, Howard and Donna McDaniel bought a house across from the DeKalb Airport years back, and their house was built on a county tile. The county tile plugged up, it blew up in their basement, which had been changed into a family room in their son's bedroom. It also warped the main floor in their home. This also, that's why I want this up, but there's a county tile that had been vacated that goes across the property to the middle where that drain is that Kenny was talking about. You can't build on a county tile, even though it's vacated. So some of these proposed homes are on that, above that tile. If you've seen out at County Road 45 and County Road 28, you see the flooding that's out there at the Anderson's Mill. That county tile plugged up. There's 3 fields that have been flooded for probably 3 to 5 years, and they're not being able to be used. So I don't want anything happening above that tile that can plug it up. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Whoever's next, please come on up and speak. Yeah, come up and state your name. You gotta do it the official way.
My name is Adam Kane. I live at 1007 Ashwood Drive. A quick question I have, Jim, of you and the commission at this point, right? You're asking us to focus on the specifics of what he's asking for, right? And I realize, looking at this in front of us here, what you guys are just going to do is change the zone. That's what all you're looking at this point, correct?
Not the zoning, the wording of the plan development that's already been zoned this way. So it's not technically changing the zone, but it's changing the standard of what can go in those spots. Like we're changing, zoning's not changing.
My question is if the average citizen came in here and asked for everything that they were asking for, would that even be taken into consideration? For a
Depends on
single-family home?
it depends on circumstances and location. I mean, yeah.
That's fine. Where I'm going with this, Jim, is I believe that what they're asking for, the amount of changes, I mean, literally he comes in here and changes it right when he comes in here. And he has that right to do that. But again, it forces everybody in here to take another look at things, right? I can only speak for my family and everybody that's in our community. And everybody sees this thing and they think automatically one thing, right? You guys know what we're talking about. Trailer park, we don't want it, we don't need it. But from my perspective, I'm looking at it. We've got huge increases in traffic will be out there. You're going to have infrastructure. It's going to have to be addressed out there. Stress is put on that. Negative property values on everybody that's surrounding it. I mean, there are 400,000 plus homes out there right now. We work very hard to maintain our properties. The biggest thing for me is community character and compatibility with that area. That does not fit with that area. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You can call it a modular housing unit. You can call it community. You can call it whatever you want. Unless it's a standard residential home like Thad Nixon and his group have been putting in along that whole road down there on 46A, I don't understand the point of it. I'm fully empathetic of people that are looking for, affordable housing. But again, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the way we want to go as a community, because what stops it from going across the street to the other side of the road? Because there's a wide open field there. I don't want to be looking at a trailer park at the end of my road. And we pay a lot of property taxes in the city. And again, I'm urging you guys to deny it based on all the changes he's asking for. I mean, there's a lot of changes in there that don't meet our existing code. So that's the reason why I'm asking you to deny it.
Thank you, Adam.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Carla Kelly. I live on Serenity Court, Auburn, and I've been here 2 years. Deep breath. I bought a villa off of County Road 46A. And that villa was a brand new villa 2 years ago. Paid $283,000 for it. It's 1250 square feet. Thank you. My thought is, why not build villas for 55 and older? The baby boomers are coming. We're all older, and we're 55 and older, and make it the roads wide enough so the EMSs can come down there, the fire trucks, like they do right now in our addition. It's a fact of life. So let's put appropriate streets in there, make it a nice pond, make it something like you all said, make it proud, make us proud. But I'm telling you, we're gonna run out of housing for us seniors, and I'm here to say, why not? That's all I got.
Thank you.
Greg Wolf, 3320, County Road 46A. The biggest thing I got is Kenny. He's talking about the water issue and stuff. Right there, we're on the same fence line as Stoops. And in our neighbor's house, big storms, 2 inches, water 40, 50 yards up their house. Isn't to their house, but if they build it up any in that corner at all, it's going to go over the road, which it already has 6 or 7 years ago, and they ended up coming in and cleaning that tile along the ditch. But that's my concern.
Gotcha. One,
Greg Wolf.
thank you, Greg. One thing about that, and I'm pretty sure this is true, the Drainage Board would see this as a primary plat issue, not for this. That's why this is not even being addressed here. So just for everybody's FYI, it would be addressed at the primary plat once a plan comes forward. So conceptually, they do have a retention pond there, but again, that could change. So, anybody else?
My name is Shar Sunken, and I live at 1301 Elm Street. The couple of things that I have to do with just verifying whether or not you can even fit the square footage on these 50-foot lots that are being proposed. A 1,323-foot manufactured home or modular is basically 49 feet wide. That takes up the whole lot. There's no room for a garage. You add a standard 2-car garage on, say, Somerset Ridge is 20 by 21. So you add 20 feet to that and you're at the 70-foot lot right there. So I guess my question is, are we putting these modulars in sideways? So what is that going to look like? And are we allowing these mobile carports, and are we having porches? Are there going to be covenants and restrictions? That would take care of a lot of things, like your rose lawn. These are the covenants and restrictions that they have. That will keep things from happening that shouldn't be happening. Rose lawn looks like that, which is a lot smaller than what you're talking about. But I don't understand how in the world, if the properties on Rose Lawn are their assessed value, which a lot of times assessed values are less than actual values. We've got one that is 277.4. We've got one that is 284.4, and one that is 243.9. I didn't look them all up. I just looked a few up to see where we were at. I don't understand how you can do something for $220,000. I think that we ought to leave the zoning at 2. Leave it be. It was just rezoned. It's consistent. Zone 2 is consistent with what is already in that area. Right across the street, the whole greater subdivision, Mason's Village, Somerset, Coventry. Why would we want to have something right across the road that isn't consistent with what we've got?
Just one thing before someone else steps up. Two things. I believe it's M3 right now, right? Not R2. Is it M3?
It's our area.
We're correct over there, but it's M3 in there. And then the covenants and restriction issue would come about later with the primary plat, not with this, because this is just the reclassifying the standards.
From the R3 now.
It's a different.
R2 back.
If it's a different.
It's not R2. It's currently M3. It's already developed as a planned development with an apartment.
So you can't change your zone.
Commercial use.
That's okay. It's okay.
It's already going to have.
It's confusing.
Than what the surrounding community as it is based on the current approval.
Correct. Anybody else? Please step forward. Thank you.
I'm Lita Hollinger. I live at Chandler Way. Traffic is a huge thing that I'm worried about. 46A is busy. A lot of Bear Creek comes through that way. A lot of people that want to bypass things. You also have Auburn Drive Extended, which comes our semis that come from SDI, New Process. All those on the east side come down that way to hit 11A, they get on 69. Also, your large industrial trucks run there constantly. You add as many homes as they're saying, double that in the number of cars you're going to have coming through there every day. Their road access, they're looking to come out on Auburn Drive. If you go out and look, there's not much room between 31 and the intersection of 46A. Those people that come out 31 are sit there quite a while in the mornings because they can't get out. You add this, you add an entrance, an ingress, egress to come out between 31 and 46A is going to be a nightmare. Coming out on 46A is also, you are real close to the intersection. Your site to the south on 46A is not the greatest. Now that it's been repaved, it's a raceway. You're going to have a problem. So traffic is a huge, huge issue, at least for me. And I know we talk about affordable housing. Auburn needs it. DeKalb County needs it. There's no doubt. The thing is, $220,000 to $300,000 is not affordable housing. It's just not. If they're modular, is what I'm hearing, I'd like to know what financial institutions are even going to loan on modulars. In my office alone, I have lots of problems with people trying to sell their home because it was a modular. Yes, it was put on a foundation, but they have a hard time getting financing. That's another issue I'm finding, that I don't know what institutions are going to finance that. HOAs are important. I hope they have one, and I hope they keep it up, because that's how you keep them looking. But having them set in sideways at 220 to 300,000 just doesn't add up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Russ Emmerich. I'm from 1501 Duesenberg Drive. Looking at this, there's a couple things I see wrong with it. Number one, if they put the house in there, I'm assuming that they're gonna face each other. The front door won't face the street. And because of that, the driveway also is gonna be one car wide. I'm assuming that's the way it's gonna be. So you take a family, mother, father, they got 2 cars. Who's gonna park in the driveway? Who's gonna park on the street? Well, so the next thing you know, you get somebody that's got a kid that's driving, you got 3 cars. So you got cars parked all along the street there on all these narrow lots. The other thing is I live on 50, or not 51, but Duesenberg Drive, and State Road 8 from DuPont, from DeKalb Hospital down to Auburn Road. It's like a bypass because they get so much traffic coming back and forth. Everybody from the south side of the town wants to cut across and go down Duesenberg. They come out to the other side of the town so they could go to their subdivisions or whatever they are. The other problem is that Auburn Road comes around and it's supposed to be the bypass. Well, it's to me, it's like a drag racing thing because there is nothing on the east side other than that Dollar General that they just put in. Everybody has to go to the other side of town to buy groceries, to buy gas, anything else that they want to do. Everybody runs back and forth. All the restaurants are out there. So here you're going to put more housing on this east side of town. And all these people are going to be going back and forth also. So why are we putting people over there? Why can't we put restaurants on that side of town? Why can't we put a grocery store there? Why does everything have to be on the west side of town where it's so congested that most of the time you can't get through? To me, they should be solving the problem over there and trying to help our end of town rather than trying to make our end of the town like the other side. Thank you.
Thank you. To address at least part of this comment again, remember that plan up there is not the plan that's going to be
Yes,
presented. So, and I understand it's what you're referring to because it's a conceptual that was presented. And also, we can't dictate what goes where. I would like to have restaurants there too. It's the developers that are going to put things in. So,
well, like most families, we gather junk. I'm not saying that, everybody does it. So you don't have a garage, so you put it in a shed. Pretty soon the shed gets full. Where does the stuff go? It sets outside the shed.
no, we get. I agree.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Thank you. I just wanted to address at least some of that. We can't dictate it. So, thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Jim, and we're still looking at those 2 commercial lots at the front, right?
Yeah.
My name is Mike Sterry. I'm on the Villas of Coventry, Teury. My concern is, yes, you should make it no less than a 60-foot lot, for anything out there. Because in Mason Village, even some of their homes, you can barely get a lawnmower between each house. Kids can shake hands through the window, And I'd like to see a Myers out there.
With the gas station too, I'm sure. Okay, next.
Paul Degnan, 1507 Oak Chase. I just wanted the commissioners to know, ladies and gentlemen, if this room was big enough, I don't know if you're aware of it, online is a petition. And it's over 500 voices on that commission that couldn't get in here tonight. So I just want to make you guys aware of that. There is a petition out there. I don't know if you've seen it online or not.
Have not. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? If you would like to speak, please maybe slide up so we're not waiting so long. I know it's hard to walk from back, but if you'd like to speak, please line up there so it could be a little quicker between.
Hi, my name is
Thank you.
Cindy Lighter. I live at 1700 Elm Street, and I live right on the bypass.
it is very common for cars to be racing up and down that road. So for the police officers, if you want to get your quota, go down there because I hear it almost every night. My biggest concern is when I look at these, those lots are small. But if you think about single family homes and you have what, 2, 3 children? Where are those children going to play? Because I don't see a playground down there. My biggest concern is the bypass is a dangerous place to be. And that's where the kids are going to be riding their bikes. I don't want somebody to get killed. No. And that's my biggest fear, is that somebody will get hurt. And it's like, we have to protect our children. And there'll be children running across there, running to other people's homes. That's my biggest fear. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Derek Weimer, 1104 Sycamore Court in Auburn. You say you didn't know the petition was going on at all? 546 signatures on this petition opposed to the modular home plan. And another question, why weren't all the homeowners adjacent notified in the mail with a letter? My sister got one and she lives on the corner of 35 and Auburn Drive. We didn't get one. None of our neighbors got one. So it's kind of like a big secret. You know, you got to look and see, you know, the signs aren't viable. I mean, you can't see the weeds are grown up and it's like, okay, there's a, what's that say as you're driving by because they're so small. And then the person listed, Toby Buck, he's not even from Auburn. He's from Pendleton. So he doesn't know the community like we know it. And also the crime, we've got enough crime in Griswold. We've had murders, drug deals, suicides. We got enough of that. And putting all these homes stacked up on top of each other with, call it low-income housing, that breeds crime. And we don't need any more of that. And like somebody else said, we're going to have to hire more officers. You know, a lot of things are going to have to change in order to accommodate this. Who's, you know, we need an HOA. You know, that'd be down the road, but somebody has to police this because it's just going to be another breeding grounds for crime. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
Good evening. My name's Heather Hanus. I live at 4930 County Road 35. I've been to a couple of these planning meetings before. I was here when we talked about Thomas Estates at your last meeting. And one of the things that I hear from all of you speak is the 2040 plan. Where is the 2040 plan? Because I think the residents of Auburn need to be better informed of what that plan is.
It's posted underneath the Building Planning Development Department on the city's website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Would anybody else from the public like to speak?
My name's Robert Surface. I live at 1102 Sycamore Court. My property backs right onto Old Brick Road. And then when I sit on my porch, on my shed, to look south, I can see the open fields and I can see the trains. I don't want to see a bunch of homes unless it's for elderly people that will take pride in keeping it up. That's all.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kenneth Brown again. Something I forgot to mention the first time. I built a big building, which you guys were all in favor of, big before your time, just directly east of the lots you have on 40 or on Auburn Drive. You guys said everything was great, but then when I went to the city denied me 3 different times. They told me they wouldn't allow a driveway to go on Auburn Drive. I had to move my building 3 times to get my driveway to come out on 46A. So those 2 lots that have commercial will go out on Auburn Drive will never get approved by the city.
Would anybody else from the public like to speak? Please step forward.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Craig, 1903 Grayson, here in Auburn Drive, Mason Village. I'm a young lady, and I'm going to say young, who had said that we needed more senior living. Absolutely. One of the things that we miss here in Auburn, besides a lot of things, is senior living, quality living, affordable living. If you're sitting here and telling me that you're going to put in $220,000 to $300,000 homes that's set up like mobile homes, one, there is no way in hay I would pay it. Two, you are not focusing on the seniors or the residents of Auburn.
Please address the commission.
I am.
No,
Well.
no. Please
I've been
address
here
the
when
commission.
before. Yeah. We have to focus on Auburn, the residents of Auburn, quality of Auburn. I don't care how you want to cut it. That's a mobile home park. It might be a manufactured home, but who in the heaven's name is going to pay $300,000 for a home that comes in a flatbed? Really? Number one. Let's look at reality here. Would any of you go buy a $300,000 home, sit on a 60 or 50 lot, 120 feet, set up like a mobile home park? When you need a cup of coffee, your neighbor hands it to you. Think about it. That's number one. Number two, every one of us are taxpayers. Look at the construction. Look at the police. Look at the traffic jam. Look at what it's going to cost Auburn for somebody else to get his money in his pocket. That is what intensity is. That's not quality. Nothing about that is quality. Do you have any place for the kids to play? Look at the entrance and exit. Look at it real close. There is one entrance, one exit. You have the police coming in. You have the fire department coming in. You, every one of you, are going to be looking at a budget in a couple of years. And we got a big problem. We're going to have a big problem because my backyard drains. I live in a villa. And it floods, and I spent 4 years, and I've been there 9, with my HOA, because my backyard goes down and it slopes, and guess what? The tile is broken. We, as an HOA, do not have the money to fix it. And it was 3 and 4 feet deep. In fact, I called and had out the Board of Health because I had mosquitoes so bad I could not get in my own backyard. And you know what the good old DeKalb County said? Well, guess what? DeKalb County has mosquitoes. Live with it.
Okay, you've reached your 3 minutes. Can you kind of clip it up here?
But take that into consideration because it is going to get your budget double for somebody that wants to make money and it isn't in your pocket.
Thank you.
And the $300,000 to set up like mobiles? No.
Thank you. Would anybody else from the public like to speak? And again, these are conceptual plans. These are not the plans where the roads come out necessarily aren't where they're going to come out in the future.
My name is Justin Alvarado. I live on 1410 Somerset Ridge Drive. I'm really close to it. I think everything's been said. I should like to ask the council to not approve this. It's just not in the best interest. I totally agree. Houses are going to go there one way or another. Maybe like half. That's what I would like. Is not near the amount of foot traffic. Really, everything's been said. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
We don't need the microphone. I was always told I talk too loud. Paula Strasser, 1117 Summerwood Circle. Did anybody look into how many kids might be going to the schools? Are the schools built to take on maybe 100 more kids? Also, too, if the houses could face the road, they make manufactured houses that look like two-story regular houses. If they made actual lots, put the houses so they face the roads, that may not be quite as bad, because I kind of live kind of catty corner from it. But when you're just putting them, like she said, boop, 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 that's a trailer park. No matter how you say it, it's a trailer park. But they do make regular looking houses that you can't really tell are modules. And if they face the roads, had a garage, it'd be like a regular home. That's it.
Thank you. Would anybody else from the public like to step forward and speak, either in favor or against the project?
Oh, against. Well, here against.
Any other? I'm going to give everybody a chance. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. So now, before we begin discussion amongst the commission members, I'd like to draw your attention to the considerations listed at the end of the staff report. While formal findings of facts are not required for the request to modify the uses allowed and applicable development standards for this planned development district, staff has provided 5 key points for our review. It should be recognized that the conceptual plan is only an illustration of its intent. The commission should avoid delving into the plan itself as part of the modified request. It is not binding and it could change following this modification. However, if this modification is approved, any future primary plat filed that meets the applicable criteria would generally be entitled to be approved. Therefore, any changes that we want to make to the district's criteria, many of which we've discussed, needs to be made at this time. So with that context in mind, I'll now open the floor for discussion amongst commission members. And I guess I'll go first. Okay, I had an opportunity in reviewing this to also go back and revisit the Planning Commission zoning class, our case 2023-9, which rezoned this property initially from agriculture to its current planning development district classification or designation. That case included 14 considerations, not just the 5 that are presented to us now. Several of these, I believe, remain relevant to our discussion today, even though we're just doing a text amendment to amend what's already been passed. Here are the 5 I think that we should also consider. The current conditions and the character of existing structures and uses in the area. The most desirable use for which the land area is adopted. Number 3, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. 4, the testimony of the applicant. And 5, relevant evidence presented by other individuals. Some of the issues that I see with this before even considering doing this would be can you turn to standards again? I guess they're duplicate from this staff report and also the ordinance. So speaking to the ordinance, that changes are going to be made. The standards. If this would have come to us initially this way, I don't think I would have approved it in the first place. The apartment idea with the industrial and the commercial, I think I was fine with. So anyway, the standards that I would like to see changed on this before I could even consider this would be the lot width increased back to 60% or 60 feet instead of the 50 feet, because that's consistent with R3. The garage requirement, whereas it's not a 2-car garage requirement, it's a 1-car garage requirement in the R3. I'd like to see that garage requirement added back in as a yes versus a no. With the lot laid out the way it is, I'm still probably okay with the, what's the percent coverage? 60% versus the 50% coverage. I'm still okay with that modification being there. I do want to see the removal of manufactured, so it's only modular home. And one of my other biggest concerns, and this is where I have a really big problem, is the streets remaining private and not public. The street width, it needs to be wide. It needs to meet city standards for fire trucks, for emergency vehicles. I got to look to see where that's actually at within, I had it written down somewhere, but I got so many notes, I can't find it. But I would like to see that change as well. And without those, I don't know if we need to do those as conditions, commitment of use, change the ordinance, if all those could be done in the ordinance. But that's where I stand on it. So I'm not really, as presented, ready to make a favorable recommendation at all, unless changes are made.
So I remember looking at this proposal when we initially changed it to a plan development. And one of the major discussions was the conversion from, I think they originally had it requested for I-2. And we expected to change over to I-1 to allow a barrier between and the transition between in that community space to soften that transition as we begin to move toward the residential area. The original plan was, how do you then bridge that with the apartment community where they store their stuff? That was the intent of the storage units. And there was a cohesive plan for something like that. Going back to the very first speaker from the audience, from Carlett's the attorney, concerns about noise as they look to expand next to an industrial and I-2. Yes, when we look at the plan development, an adjacent property of I-2 to an R3 is acceptable. Adjacent property of an M3 to a to an I-2 is acceptable, but we've been through enough of these meetings that there will be public issues if Carlites look to expand further onto their lots. I echo a lot of your concerns. Specifically, I noted the road requirements as a significant concern, as well as the lot width being a significant concern. It's hard not to revert back to the conceptual drawing, but recognizing what is functionality or functionally capable within that lot and within their plan and within what they're trying to do, based on the information we've been provided, which is all we can really base our assessments on. I'm struggling with accepting this because we lose that barrier and transition as we move from industrial to residential. And that was the big selling point of even developing and voting for the original PD early on, was it allowed that progressive transition through that area, which this current proposal does not provide.
I'm also leaning toward the recommendations already been made here, but the one that I think is going to be needed is the first speaker came up and said, just like with airports, the protection of filing complaints. I don't know exactly how that would be mentioned or put into motion, but if business does want to expand next to this supposed housing development, they would need to be protected, or at least I think they should be protected from complaints or lawsuits.
Any other discussion?
Different lots in the different areas around here, so we have a reference. Grayson Drive, the smallest lot, is 60 feet. Chandler, 60 feet. Hayden, 60 feet. Cross over to Duesenberg and Oak Chase is about 80 feet. So at 50 feet, this is by far the smallest lot sizes we have in that area. I am going to tell you that I am a proponent of affordable housing. I know somebody made a comment that it's not affordable housing. In this world, it is. In today's market, it is. New houses are being constructed for $350, $400, and their market knows it's affordable affordable housing. It's not. Kids who are making $60,000, $80,000 a year cannot afford that. They can't afford the 220s, 250s, 260s. It's something as a city we need to be looking at, we need to be considering. However, in this case, looking at the surrounding properties in the area, I'm not in favor of going from a 60 to a 50. So that's where I'm going to stand on this as well. Bob Airman's comments as well, that carries the weight with me. That putting that much residential in this area, and this is something we discussed when we approved that PD. And we wanted that transition going from the I-2 to the I-1 to the apartments, the warehouses, over to where we're at with residential. That was a conversation we all had. So we're going to stick with that original conversation as well. So that's why I'm going to lean on it. So echoing what you guys are saying, that's what I'm thinking.
I think, Jim, before any motions are even made, should Keith have a chance to reply to any of this?
Yeah. Yep. Do you have anything else you would like to add or comment? Since you don't have a microphone in front of you. There you go.
Yeah, I think the 60-foot lot is not a deal killer as far as that goes. As far as all the houses will face the road. They're not facing behind the road, so they all face the road. When you pull up, the garage is going to be there, front porch is going to be there. They all face the road. So I know that's been a couple of questions they've asked about that. So as far as the flooding, I mean, I know storm drains, as it's all developed, that should be all taken care of in the civil drawings. So I know that probably floods out there. There's a low area out there, but that'll all be taken care of with that. And I know, a lot of people think that 60 homes is a lot, but right now it's zoned where I could put 300 apartments on there. So the density could be a lot more than what I'm asking for here. So that's just, I hear that a lot too. So that was about what was going to go in there, is 200 or 300 apartments right there. Plus the store, and then there's still a commercial component on the back. But I thought this would be a little lesser impact than 300 apartments.
Anything on the street being a public street and you adhering
I
to
just see what the width of that, if that's what we need to do. Then
with the
dedicate to
sidewalks
city.
and everything,
Yeah.
interconnectivity?
I missed that. Did you say the 60-foot wide lot was?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I heard that. Thank you.
Jim, you mentioned something, city street width being one thing, but sidewalks is the topic that
Just
you
said sidewalks.
addressed.
I just said sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep. I'll speak louder, so.
Okay, so with all of the changes we did, so the plan that has been presented now verbally to us is significantly different than what was presented to the staff and what the recommendations are for the staff. So what are our options at this point? Is this something that they can withdraw and reapply based on what you've heard tonight? Do we have to vote on this? Do we have to make a recommendation? Where are we at with that? Jim or?
You don't. You have the option for a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. The applicant could choose to withdraw the application and start over, or you could make a, I guess the way to modify the ordinance would be if you chose to give a favorable recommendation with the following conditions that would then be added to the ordinance for consideration by the council.
So not like at council where we make a motion to amend by changing Article 5, Article 6 of the ordinance. We can't do it through motion to amend the ordinance.
You could do that, or you could say a favorable recommendation with the following conditions that are a
But we could attack one by one, because then I don't know if everybody's in favor of making the streets like, I think everybody's gonna be okay with 60 foot and dry and garage, so that could be made as one motion and we could break it up.
Sure.
Might be easier that way. Does that answer your question?
It does. There's just so many changes. It's not like one or two things. It's like the entire development plan is now scrapped and it's done it verbally. So I think it's going to be very difficult for us to try and get through and
I
be
forgot one.
favorable with these conditions. It could be done. I'm just saying it's going to be difficult.
So if we were to propose a favorable with a significant number of conditional modifications, I've got kind of what the consensus is here written down. It's still on the council to determine what those actual conditions of the new zoning would be. It's not the acceptance of them outright. It's they then would have to consider each condition individually as well, correct?
Well, if we added the change to the ordinance, it's there, and then we'd have to change that back. It wouldn't be, if we edit and amend the ordinance changes.
Okay. Correct. And I mean, if you gave an unfavorable recommendation, no recommendation, council still
Could pass it,
is going to hear it and they could pass it.
even if it's unfavorable.
Yeah. This is an opportunity for the public to be heard, for the petitioner to be heard, and for the commission to weigh in and hope that the council takes your comments well. But
I'm not sure what the filing fee is for this, but from a developer's perspective, is it more prudent for you to amend your proposal and refile, or would it be more prudent for you to accept a finding from this commission with a significant number of conditions applied to that then you're trying to meet? What would be your verbal course of action?
I think if we get a favorable way to talk about it, I'd be okay with that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I was going to say, would you rather amend your plan, come before us once again with a clearer perspective?
Yeah.
Based on some of the feedback that you've heard here today, or get a move forward with a significant number of conditions involved?
I'm probably good either way. James, would it be easier?
Well, I wasn't asked, but I'll give an opinion. As by the applicant. Again, we're not addressing that plan.
Right.
Plan's out. So the only thing we're addressing is that box up there, the list under the list under residential, and the uses. So that right now the uses allowed are R3, the same as R3, which allows manufactured home. But if the applicants agree not to do manufactured home, then we will strike that as one of the uses allowed. So we cannot, or any future owner cannot do a manufactured home. That's a simple change to the ordinance. The other changes we're talking about are in the table. So if we just go down in that table and we're looking at lot width, 60 foot, the garage requirements, so we change that no to a yes. And the sidewalks.
Forgot the minimum dwelling unit size too, going from 900 to 1350.
That certainly be changed with this.
I've got
Again,
that written down.
go through and just change those. That's really what, and then if this planning commission, that's what you recommend, that's what city council will see. In that table will be modified to meet the planning commission's recommendation.
One thing I still struggle with is the transition area. That's what I'm really struggling with on this one specifically.
Yeah, even with the changes, I don't know that I don't know. I don't know where I stand, but I want to get those changes made. Can I go ahead and make a motion from the president's chair? So here's my motion. I'm going to make a motion to amend Article 3 Development Standards, making the following changes. Number 1, the minimum lot width will increase from 50 to 60 feet. The minimum dwelling unit size will go from 900 square feet per dwelling unit up to 1,350 square feet per dwelling unit. And the garage requirement changes from no to yes. That's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Road and modular and stick built.
That's in a different section. That's why I wanted to break it up into the sections.
Yes.
So any further discussion on those three changes just to the development standards? Okay.
Yeah, what's the minimum lot area for R3?
It's the
7,200. It's the same. Yeah, that brings it into compliance with pretty much everything, with the exception of the percent. As R3 is really 50, but I'm okay increasing it to 60 here, I think, to help accommodate the size. Any further discussion? All in favor of Yeah, I did. Yeah. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The sidewalk one I saw, I think, is in Article 4, design standards. Okay, so we also then need to change Article 4, Section C, which says residential uses are not required to have a garage. A storage shed shall be provided for each residential lot. I make a motion to change Article 4, design standard, subsection C, to say residential uses are required to have a garage. Period. End of statement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on changing Article 4, subsection C? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. E of the same article, down to E. Sidewalks are not required along the interior private streets. Okay, before I make a motion, I'm gonna ask on this. So should I change it to sidewalks are required and interior public streets will be dedicated to the city of Auburn? Something.
Streets will be built.
City streets and to city standards? Okay, so sidewalks are required.
Let's keep in mind that the infrastructure costs could be more expensive, and that's going to be up to the developer.
Okay.
Put in city streets, curb and gutter to our specifications, sidewalks, ADA ramps. It's going to be something that the
Okay.
developers that could make or break the developer's profit margin. But I'm just throwing that out there.
Gotcha. I'll ask the developer, would you be willing to do that?
I mean, if it's part of it, yeah. I mean, obviously, I gotta put it in the plan and run the numbers. But yeah, I mean, if I could dedicate to the city, I think it'd be a benefit.
And meet the city standards with sidewalk?
Yep.
Okay, since he agrees to do that, I'd like to change Article 4, design standard, subsection E, to say sidewalks are required along the interior streets, and all streets shall meet city standards. We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The other one is to remove I lost my place. Remove manufactured housing and make it modular only. Or yeah, that is stick built, right? Or stick built.
Just remove.
Yeah. So I got to find where that's at. I have it written down as number 4. And that must be not in the ordinance. It must be in the staff report, number 4. I didn't see it in the ordinance.
It's listed under Article 2 of the ordinance.
Okay.
The uses.
Thank you.
So perhaps if you offer to add at the end of the sentence, you could accept out manufactured homes.
Okay.
So it allow the site built or modular, just not manufactured.
So if I just said modular or manufactured homes are excluded.
Would you rather do it in the affirmative? Specifying what specifically is accepted.
Modular and stick-built versus.
That's the way the way it currently reads. Just everything that's allowed in R3. So if you said on UDO section 2.13 are allowed with the exception of manufactured homes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to amend the first paragraph of Article 2 uses. At the end of the sentence, the first paragraph, to add with the exception of manufactured homes. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have I missed anything? Is there anything else?
He did state that all of the property will face the road, so your traditional trailer appearance would not be applicable. So we condition that to them so that their front door facing roadway structures. That was part of what the plan was, that he indicated that none of them would be the trailer approach where their side yard facing doors.
So would that be best added as a condition?
All the front doors be facing the road, so.
And the garage too, right?
Yeah, the garage.
Because you would never have a room to do a side entrance garage.
We're doing a couple corner lots, that's the only thing that I need, but I'll probably still make it face the road either way, so.
Condition or?
That could fall under Article 4 design standards. If you want to add something concerning that, that's where you would add it.
Add a G.
I'll let you take care of that one.
I move that under Article 4 design standards related to this development would have a requirement for road facing front doors and garages.
Letter G.
Yes. Garage. Sorry, my list.
I'll second the motion. Oh, I guess
Under
it's on
that
me.
same-
So any more discussion?
It does say that you provide a paved parking area for at least 2 vehicles.
That's already in there.
Right.
And that's
So
in
one's garage,
right, correct.
the
On drive.
the approach.
Drive, yeah. That's consistent with R3. So any more discussion on G about front facing front doors and garages? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So by modifying these, this is the recommendation that goes to council with or without the favorable recommendation. We just changed what is going to be presented to council. Is that accurate?
Yes, there is one thing that hasn't been addressed, and you mentioned earlier the commitment that no one that purchases a lot there can complain against the noise from industrial. So
Would that be a straight type?
that's
Is that the legal term for it? Would be demonstrate due to a nuisance complaint of noise?
It's a great question. I mean, it would have to be subject to the covenants, but I'm not exactly sure how we would.
Isn't there something set up now where you, like a commercial going in with Dollar General, they have to put the fencing up? Is that?
they
still-
technically didn't have to,
Well,
but now that we've changed the ordinance, they would.
ordinance now says there has to be a fence or something up, but
But I don't
no.
know that it applies
Right.
residential next to commercial. I'm not sure what the wording should be, but I think you could make a requirement that the covenants and restrictions have language that the residents can't complain against Carlex for existing. Where I'm struggling with it is I don't know how much good that ultimately is going to do for Carlex. People are going to complain and do. Carlex has the legal protection that there's tons of case law that says you can't move next to something that you consider a nuisance and then complain about the nuisance. There's about like hog farms and all that kind of stuff, racetracks.
Railroad track.
Yeah, all kinds of those types of things. So I don't know exactly what the language would look like, but you could add a.
Well, from the county, on every plat that we approve, they read into the record that the owner of the plat will not object to the use of, if their adjacent land is agricultural, they will not object to the legal use of anything that happens within that agricultural. So if a hog farm goes in next to them, hey, too bad, that's allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they read it in for everyone.
Yep. That's.
And how do you get people to, how do you say you can't complain about something?
I don't know.
Just
Ask Andrew.
Well, in like HOA, you put a non-demonstrative clause that you can't demonstrate about annexation into the city of Auburn. But if you fall into the EJ, it has to be one. So there's a non-demonstrative clause in the covenant and restrictions.
But
so within that provision, that says the community as a whole, the HOA can't. Now the individual can do anything wrong, but the HOA can't object to that.
Well, and it's just like that situation. So you have a non-remonstrance, an annexation happens, you try to object. Someone can say they can pull that out and say you bought a property that had this, and there's been all kinds of issues with non-remonstrance and changes in the law and all that, but that's the same thing ultimately Carlex could do is say we have this provision, but there's nothing that can stop someone. Your HOA can't show up at your door and say dismiss your lawsuit right away. There's still if somebody brought a lawsuit against them, they'd still have to go through a process to dismiss it for that. But we could require them to put language in that says that the owners of the properties in the HOA agree not to object to any legal use of the surrounding properties. How much actual effect that has? Because again, I think Carlex they've got decades and decades of case law on their side that says you were here, these houses came later. As long as you are legally operating and doing things that you're allowed to do, no one gets to ask you to leave because they came later. But that's something that could be put in.
I think the complaint was for further development on the west side of that or the east side of that lot. If they were to expand it, that obviously lost goodwill, lanes, and driving. That further expansions or operations should they choose to do that, not based on their existing operation.
Yes.
Any further discussion on that? Anybody want to?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the intent would be.
I would just like to add, I'm not a voting member, but I listened to what everybody said, and I think that for the developer, residents of Auburn want it to be, have a healthy community where it's family-friendly housing and also handicap accessible for seniors, so that if somebody, people requested senior, there should be proper access through the doorways and, into the residence and everything else. And there should be areas of recreation for the kids, because people that buy these affordable homes will have kids. So there should be, it should have a quality of life is what we're looking for. And I don't think we can mandate that with any kind of laws, but that's just a request.
Any other discussion? I'm with you. The buffering is kind of still an issue for me. When I look back to the current, like I said, I look back at the zoning that took place before changing it from agriculture to plant development. The conservation of values through the values of properties through the jurisdiction. I don't know if there's any real data on that. Plus, with the changes that we made, I think it's helped. What would be the desirable use for the land in the area as adopted? Affordable housing is one of those criteria or conditions. And the character of existing structures and uses in the area, that's where it's a little bit different because the others are designed a little bit differently. They're not the R3, they're R2s. That being said, I don't know. We need a motion one way or another. So we need either a motion to forward to council with a favorable recommendation or forward to council with an unfavorable recommendation.
I do want to address what you just mentioned, because we did, what Chris and I talked about is that transition of use, right? As this plan is our amendments we've just put into place, this falls directly within the R3 requirements. It falls in directly with what all the other properties in that area, other subdivisions, are in compliance with what this is now. Okay, so it's a lesser density. It is complying with lot sizes. It's complying with the building sizes. Everything we're seeing in all of the surrounding area.
Oh, that's true.
So it's definitely better, in my opinion, because with the apartment complex that they could put in, you could put Griswold.
Yes, that is my concern.
100%. You could do that today without us changing anything.
Yeah,
they can put that in. So with these changes, I think that this is a better use than what we
with those changes, correct.
So
thank you.
just for you guys all the time, just put that.
And I did want to, Chris, you had made a comment about favoring the potential for an unfavorable recommendation with the conditions. I don't think you can really do that. It's either if it's unfavorable, it's unfavorable. If it's favorable, you're adding your conditions.
But we made amendments, so they're in there.
Favorable, but unfavorable, it's you're saying vote no on this, so your changes don't really they don't really matter at that point. It's up to the council and what the
and they can always come back and change them.
They could make those same, anyone on the council, they could make the same suggestions. But I just think it's yeah.
I did not know that. I thought our conditions were fixed now. That it would be going now to council with whatever recommendation we made.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah.
And I do want to mention one thing about council. Again, as you said, there would not be a public hearing there, but there's always a place on the agenda for public comment. So there's always a place for public comment. That's where you would want to make your comment if you're here, regardless of the way it goes. So you will have a chance to speak. So I'm looking for a motion.
To boil it down, this is basically would we take out PD, basically consideration to commercial north and then residential south. Would we consider an R3 district in this area? Is it suitable for an R3 that meets all the criteria? Plus another one that has required frontage of properties at that point, which often is not layer production.
Now that the streets will meet the standards, sidewalks, it's gone back to 60 feet. Yes, I think so. I personally think so.
That's the decision we're making. Would we accept an R3 in this area with commercial north end? Plus a couple of other constraints on this property. It's on the developer to determine if it's profitable or not, if they're going to move forward with that based on these conditions. Fair summary for the audience. Okay.
And keep in mind, we need a majority, which is actually 6. We need a quorum basis. No, he's not. That was the other one. Still need a motion.
I would like to see this rather than a. Yeah.
You want to make a motion? Forward the council with a favorable recommendation?
With the conditions that we've set forth. I will, yes.
I guess that sounds like a motion. That she's
A motion.
making a motion to forward this to the city council with a favorable recommendation. Do we have a second? With the conditions. Do we have
I'll
a
second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm going to try it with just a roll, not a roll call. We'll try it the other way first. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and it's unanimous, 7 votes. Again, please plan on attending city council meeting and August 5th if you have any other questions. Thank you for your willingness to change some of the standards. We appreciate that.
May I real quick?
Yeah.
So please be aware, the standard or the plan that was on the screen is no longer the plan that was put forward. Significant modifications and scope has changed, so please keep that in mind as well.
And thank you all for coming. I'm just going to give them a minute to clear out here so we can finish our business. I'd hate to gavel them.
The traffic impact.
They'll have to face the road and it's not going to be that many minutes.
We still have business to conduct. Please take it outside. We still have business to conduct. Thank you. I'll go ahead and proceed on to reports. Address report. We have no address report. Board members? Anything from city county liaison?
No.
Nothing from county. Project advisory committee? Nothing on the agenda. From city staff?
We
We
do not have any, maybe you'll get to it. We don't have any applications filed for the August meeting, so we'll likely be canceling that.
Okay, thank you.
Apply.
City staff, attorney? City attorney?
Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff. It's gonna take a while.
Okay, go ahead.
No, we're good.
We're good? Any other public comment? Yeah, please step forward and state your name.
My name is Melva Hoagie, and I live at 3299 46A, directly across from the property. I do have a question. If you're planning on going through with this, when is the timing frame on it?
Well, this has to go to council and
Well,
it
I
has to
know
be
that.
read twice.
Right.
And then I don't know how long. He's got to go back and crunch numbers. So I'll
Are you
ask
looking
him.
for a year from now?
I'll ask him, what would you be looking for as a potential time that you would start?
I'd love to do it by the end of the year
Okay.
and approvals and things like that.
Yeah,
You currently said this was city or county now.
it's city.
It is city?
Well,
The property is city?
they're looking for annexation. That will be on the next city council agenda. So that is on there. So it will be annexed into the city
Okay.
prior to their final going through the preliminary plat and secondary plat stage.
What is the setback on 46A for this property?
It's the back. What's the back? 20
Setback rear is 15, setback front is 25.
and
Yeah, the
5
front
on the
is
sides.
25 foot setback.
25? What is it on 46A?
15 on the rear.
It would, well, that's also would be a front. So that any lot that would have double frontage, it's in front of both sides. So it's a 25 foot
25 foot setback
from the property line.
from the property line. Okay.
Yep.
And the other question I have is, it just went over my head. Let me think, what was it? I forget. Sorry.
Let her speak, and then if you remember it
Okay.
before I close the public speaking, you can come back up. Please go ahead and state your name again.
Sam Strobel.
Okay.
Lakeshore Drive, Auburn. I own the property to the north of this development. The county tile that I was talking about, it runs two areas into mine, and it is vacated since 2012, but it is working. My farm will drain in 3 days if we get a heavy rain. So that tile also goes over to the middle of this property and runs up across where you're planning on building. And like I said, if you build on that county tile or you move it around and plug it up, we're all going to be in trouble because it drains all properties between there and Cedar Creek.
Again, that will be something that will be brought up with the primary plat. That's the second stage, because it will have to go before drainage board. So please keep your eye out for the public notice again when it comes back to him submitting a primary plat. Yep, yep.
I remember. With the additional changes, modifications, are you going to be sending out letters again to the adjacent property owners?
No, there typically would not be, because there's not a public hearing at the council.
It will not go out between now and the council, but when the primary plat is filed, you will. So not for the continuation of this, but for the primary plat, the second step, it will be sent out. I don't know if you will, but it will be sent out to the property owners.
Mine and property owner adjacent to it.
Okay.
My driveway is right across from the entrance.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And the other question I have, are you confirming that you will have HOA restrictions? Okay. That was my concern there too.
Something else I brought up is there was only one entrance. There's 3 entrances. there.
Yeah, there's
So-
3 entrances, 2, one on the back side and one on the front, one on across from my driveway.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, keep in mind, as staff said, we may not end up having a meeting next month. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh, man. I do not like that. You know?
Right.
Like rails are.
So how I reconcile commercial on the north, on Auburn Drive, because the house will start to just go 31, and down 46, and that's relative buffer.
Do you know